One of my great causes of suffering my first few months in county were just getting over the fact that I had lost, that my business had collapsed. I had made $1 million, like I said I was going to do. But instead of getting out of the game, I lost it all. It was just that self-hatred and that repeating what happened over and over in my mind, and that woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? That is just a recipe for torture, self-torture. And when you're in county, you can't afford that. You have to be focused on staying alive, physically keeping your spirit alive and looking out for danger, right? You can't be crying to yourself and also at the same time, fighting some skinhead who wants to punk you out. You have to live in the moment. And that's kind of a rule. That's a rule for life, right? Stay in the moment. Forget about the past. Don't worry about the future. Live now. So a guy, an old head, taught me that. And it kind of changed the trajectory of how I did time, right? I just focused on the now and let go of whatever else was happening on the outside that I had no control over, So forget about it. Forget about the past. Forget about the baby mama that fucked you over. Forget about whoever ratted on you. There's no changing that. The only thing that matters is survival, how you're going to get out unscathed, relatively, and how you're going to get out with the least amount of time possible. Focus on your case. It's not bad to think about what you want to do when you get out, as long as it's hopefully something positive, right? Something for the better, a life change or a strategy about what you're going to do different. But again, you'll also drive yourself nuts that way as well. So it's best to never think about the past. Only keep your goals in the future in mind if you're going to get out in any reasonable amount of time. If you're facing 30 years, you better just consider it a life sentence and, figure out a routine that keeps you locked into the present. A great way to do that is to stay in shape. You got to work out when you're in there. In fact, if you're running with a gang and you don't work out, they will beat you until you do work out. In county jail, there's no yard. There's no exercise yard. There's no weight pile. You're lucky if there's like a little basketball court outside with some fresh air. But the majority of the time, you're going to be doing dips on your bunk. We lifted bags full of water as weights. We would spin laps around the day room, just walking for, 45 minutes a day, right? You need to sweat that out. You need to, you need to exercise. You need to keep your heart rate up, all that shit, right? Burpees is the huge one, right? So burpees have now become popularized today and, fucking yoga classes and all these, new fitness routines. But burpees come from prison. That gets every single part of the body. It's a push-up mixed with a cardio workout, mixed with an ab workout, all that shit. So my bunkmates, these Mexican dudes, they were like Marines with it. They would wake me up at dawn before breakfast to hit a round of burpees with them. Reading's a huge one. I mean, people that are illiterate still read in there. People read more in jail than they read on the streets nowadays. You just get lost in books. That's a great way. I would read for hours a day. My parents would send me in books. They couldn't send me in books fast enough. I read stuff, philosophy, self-help, screenwriting books. This is when I first got the seed of show business, was when I was in county jail, watching movies and reading books on how to write screenplays. And that's kind of when I remembered, I'm like, damn, I love writing. I'm a great writer. Maybe I could do this. I could go to Hollywood. They need people to write movies. So, reading just stimulates your imagination and it keeps you from going crazy. It's why inmates, especially dudes who have been down forever, are some of the most articulate motherfuckers because they literally will just read a dictionary. They will read a thesaurus and they will study it. And that's how they learn. They're self-taught a lot of the times. It's remarkable. Reading was the escape. It, allowed me to be free even though I was locked up because, man, that was a dark place. Those were some dark times. I witnessed multiple people overdose on heroin and die in my dorm. Junkies, when they've been off the shit for a little while, their tolerance goes way down. So evidently they were able to smuggle some shit in and they just shot it up their nose and they fucking keeled over and died. So I got to witness dead junkies getting, wheeled out on gurneys in my dorm. There was this guy, I can't even remember his name. He was a white dude in his 40s. He'd done a lot of time in prison, but he'd been out. He turned his life around. He had a family. He had a good home. He had a job. He had a trade, but he was charged with armed robbery. And he swore up and down he didn't do it. He swore it was a friend of his, and the state was saying otherwise. They said, you supplied the guns and you committed a robbery on these guys. And he said, fuck that. He took it all the way to trial and he lost, and he got sentenced to 15 years. And the day he got back at night, he tied his sheets up into a noose and he went into the bathroom and, he hung himself, and they had to cut him down the next day. Imagine what that does to a person, a guy in there for selling weed. I mean, it changes your life. And, that kind of shit happens on a daily basis in county jail. There was another guy, he was in the bunk right next to mine, as older black guy. He went to my high school. He went to Grant High School in Portland, Oregon. And he had been in there for 2.5 years. There was a cold case that had popped up and DNA that was traced back to him on a murder, on a body. And he was facing the death penalty. And we had the same high school basketball coach, me and this guy. We were talking about old times and hey, do you remember this teacher? And wow, is this motherfucker still running around? Does you have this security guard? And it was so funny because this was like a guy from the neighborhood and he's facing the fucking death penalty. It was surreal. And you miss everything too. I missed all the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I mean, imagine being there locked up without your family, without you at the holiday table is brutal. And the pain is remarkable. And, that surrounded by all of the day-to-day violence and the fucking filth and the noise, it's a miracle that the human spirit doesn't just fucking break down. And that's county jail in America. You imagine these other places, right? The suffering is immense. I was really tight too with my bunk mates. That's what you do. You have bunkies, people in your little bunk in the larger dorm, and you become like family. You need that to survive. And one after the other, our cases start coming up to trial. And I just see these dudes, Mexican dudes, black dudes, with their cases. They step up to the plate and they fucking strike out. And, every other week, some guy's coming back from court and he's like, fuck, I lost. I got 15 years. I got 20 years. And so my time to bat was coming up. And, thank God I had a paid killer lawyer that finally brought me the plea deal that I was willing to sign. You guys, if you like that clip, make sure to check out the full episode right here and subscribe to the channel right here.